Hello and welcome to Arrow Insights. My name is Chris Turton and today I will be taking you through the new Palo Alto Networks PA-440 next generation firewall appliance. First, I'm going to run you through the importance of the PA-400 series in the market, where it sits, the features and models, and then I'm going to do an unboxing to show you what the PA-440 looks like, give you a tour of the unit, explain what's in the box, and then finally how to register and license the firewall and get started on the administration interface. So, let's get started. Now, the PA-400 series from Palo Alto Networks is an exciting new range to hit the market. There are 4 models from the PA-410, the 440, the 450 and the 460. Designed in a desktop small form factor, the range is ideal for small to medium businesses, retail, education and even corporate branch offices. The PA-400 series is a game changer in the market, with a fantastic capacity and throughput from 1 gigabits per second for the PA-410 all the way up to 4.2 gigabits per second and 2.1 gigabits per second of threat prevention throughput for the PA-460 model. The 440 to the 460 all feature dual power supply inputs, and the entire range can be provisioned remotely using zero-touch provisioning. The PA-400 series slots in nicely to the Palo Alto Networks Strata range between the PA-220 and the PA-820 and provides a powerful SMB enterprise class option for next generation firewalls, allowing customers to not have to compromise security for smaller deployments. So let's take a look at the PA-440 and what's in the box. So the box itself is quite heavy, it's surprising for the size of the unit. Inside you can see that there's a nice bubble wrap sleeve for the PA-440 unit itself. Just get rid of those. And then in the box underneath there are some accessories. Lift up the flap, and then inside this bag is a PA-400 series quick start guide, which shows you the contents of the box, which I'll go through in a second, as well as some control information and a limited warranty statement. In the box in the center with the accessories, the bag in the center, there's a power cord. In this case it's an American power cord which comes default from the factory, a power supply unit, an Ethernet cable, and then on the back you can see some mounting hardware as well as a console cable and a wall mount bracket to mount the firewall on a vertical surface. So we're going to get to the quick start guide in just a minute. Just put that to the side for the moment. Inside the main bag here where all the accessories are the power supply, which we're going to need to get out to power up the unit. As I said before, this power supply comes with an American cord as standard, so we're going to use an Australian cord for that. There's a wall mount bracket which fits onto the unit to mount the model vertically on a wall for areas and customers that don't have a data center or a cabinet rack in their office, as well as some mounting hardware, a console cable. This is the console cable to go into the management interface. We'll show you that shortly, as well as a Cat5 Ethernet cable for management also and for connection. In the main unit itself, in a separate bag, is the PA-440 unit. So let's have a look at that. On the front here you can see there are 8 Ethernet ports. These are gigabit Ethernet ports. There is a zero-touch provisioning port here at the top, which is designed to be plugged straight into a wide area network. That wide area network port or network connection port is designed as a DHCP port so that it receives an IP address automatically from the switch or from your internet connection, and then goes off to the internet to find the corresponding panorama unit that is ready to provide the ZTP configuration, 0-day or day 1 configuration for this unit. In the center here you can also see there is a management port, a Ethernet management port. That's for a separate management network to the rest of the interfaces here. That is a 10100 1 gigabit connection. To the right of that, you can see there are 2 console ports. This one here is the micro USB port, which connects to this cable that comes inside the box. And then to the right of that is the RS-232 serial port with a RJ45 interface. Now that's a serial port, not an Ethernet cable connection. Then on the further to the right, you can see there are two USB interfaces. These USB interfaces are designed for bootstrapping the firewall using a USB drive to basically boot the unit up into a specific PAN OS of your choice. Generally speaking, you don't need to do that, but it could be useful if you want to do a number of these units and just plug a USB in and get them all to the same version of software. On the far right, you can see there are status lights. Now these status lights I'll go through a little bit closer when we've got the unit powered up and ready to go. But generally speaking, I'll just read them out to you. We've got power on the left-hand side, STS, which stands for status, the HA light, which is for high availability mode operation, as well as an alarm, a temperature light, and a service light, SVC. So these status lights will change from yellow, orange, green, pretty much I think 3 or 4 colors, and provide you the status at a quick glance at the front. On the back of the unit, and it's quite a heavy unit, it's got a lot of heat sink on the top here. You'll notice there is no fan, so there's no fans on this unit, so it's completely silent. The 440, the 450 and the 460, as well as the 410 are completely silent operation. You won't hear them buzzing away in the back room. For customers that have got areas such as behind a counter in a retail shop, these firewalls are basically silent, so they won't be making noise, they won't be interrupting anything, but obviously keep things off the top because that's a fairly heavy heatsink on the top there. So let's have a look at the back case or the back panel. You'll see that here this is a PA-440, so it, as I said previously, comes with dual power supplies. So there are 2 power supply inputs here, PWR1 and PWR2. Hopefully I got those around the right way. Yes, I did. And then over here on the middle of the unit is a ground plug or a ground stud. There's no cables, no ground cable that's provided with the unit, but this is obviously for protective ground to go to your rack or to a protective telecom earth of some description to make sure that the chassis is grounded and there's no interference caused by power or interference from electrical storms, as well as protection for the unit itself. Okay, so that's basically the front panel. The other thing that I will point out is the whole series, the 400 series, does not come with any sort of SFP or SFP plus interfaces. The units are Ethernet only. Obviously you can connect multiple ports to different internet connections, but there are no SFP optic fiber modules. This is purely a gigabit Ethernet interface on the front. If you do want to go to SFP, then the PA-820 has that capability. And if you do need SFP plus or 10 gigabits per second optic fiber, then you need to go to the PA-850. So this is purely an Ethernet unit. All right, so let's get this unit powered up. I'm going to plug it in to an internet connection. I'm actually going to use that ZTP port simply because I'm going to see what it does as we plug it in. If I can get it off. There we go. No, need some fingernails. Always the way. You think it's going to be easy and it's not. So port number 1, as I said, is a ZTP WAN port. We're going to plug that into my internet connection here. Plug that one in nice and easy. Click. So we've got that ready to go. Here's the power supply, which I'm going to plug into PWR1 or Power 1. On the power supply itself, you'll notice there is a lockable ring. Now this allows you to plug the unit in, so it can't just accidentally get knocked out, especially when it's in a wall mount situation. You don't want someone coming along and pulling that plug out, especially if it's your main firewall. So this locking ring goes into the back ring of the power supply input and then locks in and secures the power supply. So I'm going to plug that in and then screw that in. And just like anything else, hand tight is enough. There we go, ready to go. So get my power supply cord, give you some status lights on the front, and that kettle cord plugs in there, and you'll notice there's no power button. You plug it in, you apply power to it, and the unit boots up. So here we go, you can see the status light is now on, or the power light is on. Status lights will change as the system boots up. You can monitor the state of the firewall boot sequence using the micro USB console port or the serial port here for console. And then obviously the speeds of that, or the speed of this console port, is 9600 N81, so no parity, 8 bits, 1 stop bit. That's serial, just like any other serial communication. You can watch the boot sequence, see what it's doing, whether it's going to look for ZTP and so on. These Ethernet ports here have got the status lights built into them, as you can see. We'll just wait for the system to boot up before we get any status on that Ethernet port. So powering up, the unit takes around about 2 to 3 minutes to boot up into ready to go mode, in my experience, but we'll come back to it when it's ready to go. Alright, so a couple of minutes have passed, about 2 to 3 minutes, and we can see that we've got some activity here on the front panel of the unit. So it's now showing me solid power light. What basically happened was the temperature light came on to indicate that the temperature is fine in the unit. It's on green, meaning everything's fine there. There's no alarm, there's no service information or SVC. Well, we'll get back to you on that, exactly what that means. The status light, STS, went from off to orange to green. So you'll also notice that the Ethernet light is now blinking, which means it's got traffic and things are happening. Whether or not it's currently doing anything, it's currently looking for a ZTP configuration or to find itself on the ZTP Zero Touch Provisioning server at Palo Alto Networks to determine whether it's got to go off to a panorama unit somewhere. And we're going to log into the admin interface in a short while and cross over to the computer so you can see exactly what's going on there. But this is basically ready to go now. So I can log into the admin interface via the console ports, or I can come in via the management port. The management port by default is 192.168.1.1. So we're going to set our computer to something in that subnet. It's 192.168.1.10 or something like that. And then you just plug into the Ethernet interface of the management port here and then start to communicate with the unit. So we'll cross over to the computer and get started on doing that. So the next step is to run the support or register the device on the Palo Alto customer support portal. So what we're going to do here is go to Assets, Devices. Once you've logged into the customer support portal, we're going to register a new device. Now we're going to do that via a serial number, and the serial number is written on the box as well as also on the front panel and the back panel of the unit itself. So information required, the device information, the serial number, which is my unit here. Device name, I'm going to call this the PA-440-NFR 9299. Now the device tag can either be demo equipment, lab equipment. This is just whatever's been set up in your support portal. This might be customer facing equipment, your own personal stuff, or it's the customer's tags that they've already got set up. So in this case, it's going to be lab equipment. The address of where this unit is going to be installed. In the case of ours, it's going to be in St. Leonard's, and then agree and submit. Now what this does is it goes and creates a registration, and you can now optionally create a day one configuration template. This will give you things like the default IP address of the unit, some traditional best practices to set up the configuration of the system. I'm just going to skip this step. It basically creates an XML file that you can then download to the Palo Alto firewall and then run the day one configuration on the unit. So my unit now is registered. I've got to go and find it. It'll be in here somewhere. There it is. PA-NFR 9299 is the one I've just created. Now you'll notice there are no licenses created or assigned to this unit as yet. There is an authorization code that gets emailed to you from Palo Alto Networks, and that authorization code activates the licenses that have been purchased for that serial number or against that serial number, or basically on the purchase order. So I've got that authorization code here, and what that then does is, instead of just giving standard software support, all of the subscriptions that you purchased, and in this case this is the Enterprise Bundle, the PA-440 Enterprise Bundle, which includes threat prevention, URL filtering, SD-WAN, Global Protect Gateway, DNS security, wildfire license, and standard support. So that's the PA-440 Enterprise Bundle, and in this case it's an NFR bundle because this unit is being used not for resale, so that our resellers and partners can use it if they need be for SLRs or demonstrations or evals. So once that's complete, those licenses are stored in the system. That authorization code should now show for 9299, which is my unit here, the NFR bundle with all these licenses and their expiry date. So that is now authorized, that subscription is enabled, and those expiry date is the 3rd of the 2nd, 2025. So basically the day before, or the American date in this case, because it's currently the 4th of February, and these American dates are backwards, but you can see now that that unit is fully licensed. Alright, so now the firewall has powered up. It's currently sitting there with the power light on green, the status light green, and the temperature light is green. So we're connecting via Ethernet to the management interface, which is 192.168.1.1. Obviously this is not a secure certificate, so you can just skip past that and go straight to it. We're not putting this on the network just yet. So the default password is admin, or the default username is admin, the password is admin. Once you click login, it asks you to change the password, obviously for better security than just having an admin password. Once we go through this, I'll just set a quick password here. And then it logs you out, so you've got to log back in. Logging back in using the new password. And then what will happen is you'll get to a splash page which tells you that the firewall is currently sitting in zero touch provisioning mode. This means that the unit is looking to connect to the internet via port 1 that we connected previously, and is looking for a zero touch instruction effectively. The unit goes to Palo Alto's zero touch web server automatically, where it is then redirected to something like Panorama, which has the configuration of your network and has the settings ready for your firewall to be updated and loaded in. In this case, we're not going to be doing that. I'm not going to click on standard mode there. I'm going to show you a shortcut using the interface of the telnet, or using PuTTY to connect to the network. This will basically remove the ZTP configuration which is currently set up in the system and convert this all back to a standard boot system. So connecting to the console port, which I'm doing using the USB to micro USB connection, which came in the box, I'm going to connect and log into the system via my new password, and then I'm going to execute a command which will turn off the ZTP. So it's currently sitting in ZTP to switch to standard mode. It says set system ZTP disable. So there it is on the screen. We're going to just basically copy that, enter that command. Now this will, as I said, remove all the ZTP configuration that's currently sitting in the firewall and bring us back to standard mode. The moment we hit yes there, it reboots the firewall. So the firewall power light is currently on, the status and temperature lights are out, which means as you can see from the console, the firewall is now rebooting. So we'll come back to this once the firewall is rebooted, and we'll connect to it via standard mode. Alright, so the firewall has now rebooted, the status light has just turned green, so let's see if it responds to us on 192.168.1.1, see what happens. Now we should be going through basically the same procedure as before. Admin, the password will be admin, simply because removing that zero touch provisioning configuration effectively removed the changed password that we had from before. So you need to do this again. Right, so as we saw before, we've registered the firewall in the support portal and assigned the licenses using the authorization code. So what we need to do now is download those licenses and registration to the firewall. At the moment, there is nothing connected to port 1, the ZTP port. We've got a management interface via the Ethernet to the management port, the management RJ45, and by default, the Palo Alto firewall looks for subscriptions and updates via the administration port. That's the easiest way. So via the management port, you're effectively going to be retrieving any synchronization of services or licenses from the Palo Alto web servers, any updates for software, as well as threat updates and subscriptions. So as we can see here, the device currently is sitting in standard mode on 192.168.1.1. We're going to change that. We're also going to change the DNS entries. So on the interfaces, under device, setup interfaces, you can see the management interface here is currently set for 192.168.1.1. We're going to change that and connect it to a port that I can use here in my setup, and a static IP address that I know is not being used, so 10.1.1.250. The default gateway in my network is 10.1.1.1. Now this is obviously not going to disconnect me because we haven't committed this change yet. So that's the first thing, change the management interface to a usable interface IP address. And then under servers, you'll notice that under the services, there is no DNS servers in there. So we're just going to use the Google ones because they're easy to remember, 8.8.4.4. And then the management interface will basically be changed to a network IP address that will connect to my network. We're going to plug a cable into the management port, but first we need to commit that change. So let's commit that change now, and that should at some stage disconnect me because my IP address will change, and then we'll go and talk to it on 10.1.1.250. Okay, so that change has been committed. We're going to go and try and log into the firewall now with the 10.1.1.250 IP address in my case. And then the firewall didn't need to do a reboot there because all it was doing was changing the IP address of the admin or management interface. And that management interface now should now have internet access so that it can go and retrieve the licenses from the support web server, which we're going to do first. And we'll go and check that now. When the system boots, you do get some information update notifications on the current version of software. You can tell that not to show again, which I'm going to do now. Just updates that through, and telemetry data collection. So under device licenses, we're going to go and get our licenses that are currently registered to this from the license server. So this IP address, the internet access on the management port, now allows me to download the license that we saw registered to the serial number from previously. So that's all there, all the licenses are downloaded. I can now go into the software page, click check now, and see if there's any updated software that I need for the unit. It's currently running 10.1.0, but there are a number of versions that are available that are newer than that. You can see here it's all connected and ready to go. So the licenses are created and downloaded. They're assigned to the serial number of the unit. The unit has got management IP address that can connect to the internet and retrieve those licenses, and it's now ready for best practices. The firewall's ready to go. Now you can basically plug it in, get the interfaces configured, and start programming it. So there you have it, the Palo Alto PA-440 next generation firewall, licensed up, configured, and ready to program. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or you'd like pricing on the Palo Alto PA-400 series Pro and Enterprise bundle licensing, as well as the unit costs, please reach out to your Arrow account manager. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.